Psst. Hey. Psst. Down here. Look, the elites, the government, they don't want you to know this. They want you to think about this, but I'm pretty sure, regardless of what you believe on immigration, that you're backwards from what you should based upon everything else you believe. Okay, I'm not trying to convince you one way or the other whether immigration's good or bad, okay? I don't want you to walk away thinking what I think. What I want to see is whether or not I'm crazy or if everyone else has no clue what the hell they're talking about when it comes to immigration, because I swear to God, none of the political parties believe what they should based upon all their other values. I don't know if I'm going insane down here or if the rest of the world just seems to be asleep at the wheel, because from my perspective, I'm pretty sure we're all backwards on what our opinions for immigration should be. Whether you're for or against doesn't matter. Today I want to see if anyone else sees what I see. See what?
Take you down, 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 down.
Now, again, remember, lock the hell in, okay? Because I'm trying to tell you whatever you think about immigration is the opposite of what you believe, right? I'm not trying to get you to believe one way or the other. I don't give a shit what idea you're walking in here with. I just want to see if you actually do believe what you do, or if maybe I can convince you that you got her backwards, okay? Now, again, just to lay the table here, the way it is now. The left likes immigration. They like immigrants. The right broadly does not, right? Wrong. First, let's just look at their actions, okay? Both sides love to bring in immigrants, which is strange, right? That is the seed I want to sow, is that both sides love immigration. The left loves it for cultural reasons. The right loves it for economic reasons. But you see, that is where they get you. You see, the right wing, today a lot of us are grasping for it simply because shit's not going well. The left globally, again, broad strokes here, has been dominant in terms of the whole immigration subject over the last few decades because economically it's great, sure, but also culturally it's fine, We want to bring in other people, let them into our wonderful country, this and that, whatever, what have you. And the right wing loves it and doesn't change anything when they're in power because economically it's good. And you see this, think about it, right? Why is the right wing pro-immigration in practice on economic reasons? Because immigration is anti-labor. You'd never know this speaking to a leftist. Leftism, at least on paper, should be all about the working class, the working man, the average Joe out here just trying to make a living, put food on the table for his family. And yet immigration deprives him of that. And I'm not speaking... Again, I want to emphasize here, I'm not speaking at this from some sort of, wow, immigration is bad. No, hear me out here. Objectively, immigration is anti-labor. If you bring in people to your country, it will serve to lower wages, harming labor. Unions, for example, should be, and in practice often are, anti-immigration. Because you have immigrants come in, now they're demanding work, and now there's a lot of businesses that are open to hiring them as well. But if you have a labor union, or if you have workers that are there already regardless of a union, you're going to have to lower your wages to continue to be employed, to continue to be competitive. Because if you're not offering a competitive market wage at the market rate, the business will hire someone else. I really want to emphasize this. When you bring in immigrants, regardless of what you may think, it objectively lowers wages. It's anti-labor. It's anti-worker. And the left, on paper, they should theoretically be pro-labor, pro-worker, all this and that, but clearly they're not. They're all focused on the cultural part, which, if I had to paint a picture of who the fuck the average leftist is that's in governance, it's an upper middle class, if not upper class white woman, right? And these people are so far divorced from what the fuck a worker is. It's actually embarrassing. To call themselves a leftist is a fucking, you gotta make a new word for this shit. My point being in all this, though, is that the left doesn't give a shit, right? If you are a leftist, though, if you yourself, doesn't matter what the higher-ups say. What matters is what you think. If you are a leftist, then you should not be pro-immigration because it objectively lowers wages. And meanwhile, if you're right-wing, you should be pro-immigration. None of you are, but you should be because, again, the point is that it's better for the economy and it's just more free. If there was a true Reagan economics type view of the economy, we would have open borders. And that's why the right wing never lowers this shit, because they're in bed with all of the business interests. And you want to know how I know all this business interest shit? because I personally benefited. The reason I can talk about this topic is because I personally knew what was going on and I fucking took advantage, okay? Let me confess. As a business owner, I loved high immigration. I loved it. I've got a confession to make, okay? I personally have profited off of this whole confusion because I'm convinced the elites want it this way so that no one questions the system as is, especially in Canada. We currently, or at least were at the time I was running my private equity firm, we were running, I want to say $1 million+ per year in new immigrants. And a lot of them were doing the same kind of, mid-skill undergrad type work that anyone could do in Canada. Take IT, right? IT. It used to be you had to go to school, get a degree, and take a while to get trained up and such, and it was a high-paying job. And then, we started importing a lot of people from places abroad, and that depressed the IT worker wage, which is great for me as a business owner. I want to emphasize, I didn't create the system, but I walked into it, realized what was going on, and I profited off of it while it was going on. I'm sorry to say, but I'm not fighting that good fight on Parliament Hill. That's not a hill I'm dying on, okay? I'm just gonna say, fuck it, whatever. It was happening well before I got here, probably gonna happen a lot after. You have these IT workers. It used to be a high-paying job. You bring in a bunch of other people that can do IT work though, right? And they're from abroad, and they're willing to go stack themselves 5 to a room in the Brampton special, so to speak. And I can say this because I lived like that too. I literally lived with these type of guys because I starting a company at age of like 22, 23, I had bank debt, bank loans debt, and I was living off $30K a year in fucking Toronto. Oh my God, you want to know what my rent was? I paid $1K to rent an illegal bedroom in a Brampton special. Literally, you walk into the front door of the house and they converted that shit into a bedroom. It was my bedroom. It was absurd. And I lived like that. And I was thankful I could live like that. Thanks to all these people that are coming in from abroad, their standards of living are so much lower and they're willing to accept much less for their work because it's so much more than what they otherwise are used to. And so that's why immigration is anti-left. It directly harms labor. There's just no way around it. All these people that you bring in that have much lower standards of living expectation-wise, they're willing to slum it. And so that's the thing, right? Like, you ever notice how absurdly expensive rent is for a lot of houses? It's because you're competing against 5 Indians instead of you and your girlfriend. And look, again, I'm not saying this from a specific this group is bad. Like, this is just immigration broadly. That's what happens. You bring in people who are willing to accept a lot less in life. They're going to bring down the bar. And now you must meet that new level or else you are outcompeted. That's how the market works. And that's how the system's designed to work specifically. And the left supports and is honestly a bigger advocate for this and is the more likely to actually make it happen than the right. You see, the right, whenever they get in power, you ever notice how they never really scale it back? If they do, they scale it back to normal levels instead of the supercharged levels that were there before. Why does this happen? It's because it's all a racket. You see, let me describe this further. And so you see, leftists, they're deluded into thinking that immigrants are on their side, both in the general sense and I honestly also in the specific sense, in the sense that immigrants are broadly much more conservative than the conservatives of, most countries they're going to. Like, one thing I will say before ending that tangent is just that I have noticed a strong lack of care for Native American considerations among immigrants that come to Canada. And I'm not making a value judgment one way or the other, although probably you're leftists if you believe that. I'd assume that you would not like them to no longer be a consideration. And so in that sense, again, if that's the case, one could imagine that more immigrants would not be good. Because, let's be real here, it's really a product of this guilt, which, again, no value judgment one way or the other, but that is what it is, and that is quickly fading as we put more and more immigrants as a percentage of our country into the overall whole. And if you are someone who cares about Native American issues, you probably shouldn't be pro-immigration because that is the quickest way to make sure they're never considered again. Leftists should be anti-immigration, but from the right-wing perspective, you see, again, they're all anti-immigration. But clearly, the government, when they're in charge, if it's a right-wing one, they may scale back immigration, but never much. It's only to the overall trend. It's like PP up here in Canada, for example. He really wanted to dial back immigration because it was way too much, and I honestly agree it was too much. But by dial back, he means back to the pre-Justin Trudeau supercharged days, because that's the thing. They never want to undo it because it's great for business. Businesses lobby the shit out of the government to make sure the immigrant flow never stops. And the housing and realtor and builder, all of their economy centered in Canada around a fuck ton of immigrants coming in here because it props up every industry. It induces demand, right? If we overload the country with too many people suddenly, now there's not enough housing, now construction's booming, now there's a bunch of increase in property pricing, and we can't undo this because all these fucking idiots who own housing apparently viewed it as an investment instead of just a place to live that also is a forced savings account, not investment, not retirement, a forced savings account. It was never meant to be the thing that got you retired. You were not supposed to make $1 million off your house. You were not supposed to get a return on your fucking house. It was a place to live and raise a family, for fuck's sakes, and you blew it, and we are fucked. I do see the housing market in Canada not going up anymore, especially just because income does not support that. It's just not feasible. You cannot push the prices higher than they already are. But on the other hand, though, you can't really push them down much either, and that's why you're not really seeing a bunch of action from our government, because in the same vein that you can't push it higher because income can't afford it, you can't push it lower because retirements can't afford it. And the issue is the elderly vote, and the elderly don't give a fuck about you or society or the place that they live in. They don't give a shit. All they care about is making their golden years and their slow descent into the grave as awesome as possible. Everyone else be fucked. That is the fact. You know, I really lament the days back, I swear to Christ, up until the 1900s, I swear there was this sense, and you could see it in the historical records, where times get tough. The elderly say, you know what, I know there's a famine right now. I'm just gonna go starve in the forest, okay? I'm gonna go die in the woods, okay? It's been great. Thank you for all the years, family. Good luck. Because they cared about the future. Sometime in, the 1950s or beyond, it broke. And now all the elderly these days are malevolent entities. I love my grandmothers, don't get me wrong. But that being said, though, individually they're great. But as a group, they need to stop, because what they're doing is sucking society dry. And they're the ones who vote, so they're the ones who get catered to. Partly it's our fault, but on the other hand, the system can't sustain itself this way, no matter how fair or not fair it is, okay? It will reach a breaking point soon at this rate. But that being said, though, that's partly as well why we keep getting immigrants. The elderly, hum and haw and go, oh, I don't like how my hair cutter isn't my ethnicity. Who gives a shit, okay? But, they still vote to do that and keep doing that for the simple fact that it supports them economically. They hum and haw over the culture, but they know what matters most. Their wallet, okay? Never forget that. Your wallet matters first and foremost. Not this culture shit. Who gives a fuck where people piss in? All that matters is my dollars, my retirement, my food on my table type shit. How much my rent being. That type of shit. And the elderly know this, and they vote in spite of their hang-ups over there being a dark-skinned man giving them a service. And I gotta respect them for that. That's cold and calculated in a good way that we as young people should be more inclined to listen to. But that being said, though, that was a big tangent. What the fuck was I saying again? Oh yeah, we have right-wing immigration. Again, the right wing, they're pro-immigration because business is pro-immigration. The business groups are the biggest lobbyists in Canada and probably whatever country you're hearing this from for continuing and expanding the faucet of immigration for the simple fact that immigrants are the best thing for business because it suppresses wages, which means that they get to pocket more money. It's simple as, like I said, this is why I was raking it in hand over fist. In part, it's because it costs nothing to have IT workers because we imported a fuck ton of qualified IT workers. And so it's just not a viable career for anyone born in this country. And it's honestly not a viable career for anyone that's visiting or coming in from abroad working in this country either. But again, because they are willing to accept much less of a standard of living, it still is profitable for them. When I was living in that Brampton special kind of mansion, it was half the size of my 300-year-old farmhouse, by the way. Houses were so much smaller back in the day. And my 300-year-old house I grew up in, this was smaller than that. And we had one more person living there than we did growing up in my place, right? Like I said, my bedroom was the front outdoor lobby. Like, you open the door of the house and there's a bedroom, and it was illegal. Like, the bathroom had no window or fan. Like, you can't be doing that. But I put up with it willingly, knowingly, because I needed a cheap place to live. I couldn't afford meat, for fuck's sakes. I was a vegan, not by choice, but by economic necessity. Do you know what it means for me to go on a vegan diet out of economic necessity? Buddy, I grew up on a beef farm. I wanted to fucking off myself. And I had to do it because I was living off $30K a year pre-tax in Canada. You can't be doing that. It's unworkable. And so again, I had to put up with as little as possible. I had literally the cheapest room I could find in Markham for this company when I got it. I was living off of only vegetables because that was the cheapest way to get a complete protein meal with enough nutrients and shit, and it was awful, and I did that because I had to. And that's the same mentality that all these guys coming in are thinking too, right? Because most of them are not coming from a comparable level of living standard. They're coming from much less, and so anything at all is an upgrade for them, right? And yeah, sure, there's a lot of downsides to living in a fucking Brampton special where you're crammed in with a bunch of other roommates, yes, but on the other hand, you are getting to send all this money home and remittances, taking money from the local community and exporting it abroad, never to be seen again. It's literally having people come in, take jobs, take money for those jobs, and then send it home and draining us of our wealth. And we're allowing it to go on. The conservatives are happy to have that go on because, again, it's great for business because it means lower wages, which means more money for the owners like me, exactly as I was profiting from. This, again, I'm not saying this from some textbook theory shit. I lived it. I benefited from it on both ends. That Brampton special I lived in, I wanted that. I loved that was a possibility. In fact, without this whole immigrant inflow shit, yeah, rent would have been cheaper, and I'm sure actually, I don't know if it would have been better, but with the circumstances I was born into, it was beautiful to be able to shove myself in an illegal apartment with a bunch of other guys and live like a vegan unconsensually for a few years, because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to start that company. I would not have been able to get that going because I could not economically afford it otherwise. And so again, there are benefits to people coming in and lowering the standard of living, but broadly speaking, is anyone benefiting from this? Yeah, there's people like me, but we are not the norm, okay? We are the exception. Broadly speaking, this is terrible for society, and we are all worse off, broadly speaking, for it. And that's why the right wing is still, like the voters at least, anti-immigration. That's also because they're not really right wing. They're just anti-left wing. You see, that's the issue. One usually is just defined by opposition to the other. And again, whether you want to admit it or not, or you think, oh, well, that's not really leftism, you're probably right. But that being said, whatever this incarnation of techno-bureaucrat leftism is, that is globally the current ruling class, the WEF type shit, not conspiracy-wise, but just this is how it is. They're pro-immigration. The right wing is also pro-immigration because they benefit. They have this perverse alliance where they both mutually agree to get everyone, I'm convinced, talking about shit that doesn't matter to distract from material circumstances that are actually impacting voters left and right. They've convinced the left-wing guys that it's progressive to have a bunch of people come in and suppress wages and harm labor. It's insanity to me. And then on the right side, they said, oh yeah, no, we're all anti-immigration, right? And then whenever they're in power, or however they vote when they're not in power, regardless, everyone is agreed in this unholy alliance to distract us while they do what's best for themselves and their wallets. It's insanity, and I don't understand why no one seems to fucking understand this or mention it anywhere online. Like, genuinely, no one I talk to has this opinion or belief. No one sees it for what it is, and I feel like I'm going fucking insane! I'm really going back and forth on how seriously to take this, or present this at least. And I mean, can you blame me? Who the hell wants to hear this opinion, okay? This is a real scaring the hose kind of opinion. Let's be real here. Who wants to hear this? No one, okay? Either you don't give a fuck about politics, in which case, why are you talking about this, you weirdo? Immigration? Oh, look at this guy. You don't belong here type of shit, right? Rizless chud behavior. Or you do like politics, in which case you want to hear it even less, because if you're on the left, it's like, what do you mean? No, I like immigration. I'm a good person. I'm virtuous. No, this must be racist. And then on the right wing, they're like, what? No, I definitely don't like immigration, and yet no one does anything about it, right? Because at the end of the day, all that matters is what the outcomes are, and the outcomes are consistently more immigration on both sides, because both sides, I'm convinced, are against against us. They don't give a shit about the people here. The people on the left are self-hating losers who want to see everything crumble. They view it as deserved. I don't know if I'm articulating it well, but I don't know how else to articulate it. It feels like they're real self-hating, anti-human people, and the people on the right are too. Look at like a lot of those San Francisco tech guys. Those people aren't human, okay? And all of these people, you see Elon Musk and shit going on, like, oh, we need to up the H-1B visa people, and everyone on the right was shocked, and he got flagellated. Not for the belief, to be clear, he got flagellated for speaking it out loud. That is what happened. Everyone on the left has been convinced that immigration's good when it's exactly antithetical to what they actually care about. Everyone on the right, meanwhile, is distracted with different bullshit, while their leaders just try to avoid saying out loud what is going on. I'm convinced everyone's wrong. I am right. I must be the only one that sees it for what it is. I don't know. I feel like I'm going insane. Please, tell me in the comments, does this make sense to you? Have you had your mind changed? Are you more entrenched in your beliefs? Am I crazy? Are you crazy? What the fuck is going on anymore? I don't know. Just please, comments for engagements.